In today's video, we're going to be once again just diving into the upcoming pattern. We, of course, uploaded our winter forecast yesterday, so go ahead and check that out on the top right corner of your screen. We're going to be taking a look at the tropics today, the overall storminess around the nation that is upcoming over the next 2 weeks, and also some signs that we might have some action as far as Arctic blasts or big cold fronts coming in for the rest of August, as overall fall seems to be getting a little bit of an early start as we're getting those earlier cold fronts and Arctic blasts, which just means Arctic air moving down to the United States. It doesn't mean freezing, it's just air coming down from northern Canada. But we're seeing a lot more of that action earlier on this year, which could be an interesting sign as we move into the fall overall. Let's take a look at the tropics, though. We have two active systems out there in the Pacific, one being Tropical Storm Ivo, and then post-tropical cyclone Henriette. I have always struggled to say that one. We do have two areas of disturbance here in the Atlantic. We have the GFS model run playing underneath. And you can see that this yellow one does become a pretty significant tropical cyclone on this particular model run. It does stay out to sea, but it does become a significant hurricane, actually. This one currently has a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days, but a 20% chance over the next 7, which is relatively low. But we always say this on the channel, but they always kind of start low like that and then creep up if they seem to be more favorable. And if they don't, they just kind of fizzle away. Right now, we have this model showing a significant hurricane out in the middle of the Atlantic. We have the European model, which we're going to take a look at later, which shows a major hurricane. I don't know if it's literally a category 3, but it is a significant hurricane that rides up the East Coast, bringing flooding rainfall and very strong winds to many different areas. It would be terrible if that happened. Thankfully, it's very far out, but we're going to show that later on. We do see this orange area, and this is one that we've been tracking for a little while now. Originally, it was expected to head a lot further westward than this, but it is slowly but surely trended towards just overall staying out to sea. We see a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days and a 40% chance over the next 7. So we're still watching for potential development there, although models have overall backed off. So let's go ahead and move on to that European model run where we will see the overall storminess for the next couple of weeks and also that hurricane that we're seeing here on the GFS model run, but much further westward, impacting the immediate East Coast. Here we are taking a look at this European model run, and we'll move this straight towards tomorrow afternoon just to get our first little look at what to expect. And we do have a weaker low here over south central Canada, and this is bringing some thunderstorms and showers to areas of the north central states as well as the upper Midwest. We overall have a lot of thunderstorm activity around for the southeast corner of the nation, which isn't too unusual. We do see this oftentimes this time of year, obviously. This is a little bit extra, especially when we put together how many days we have seen this lately. It has just been above average activity overall. I want to keep going, though, towards the day on Sunday, the 10th here. We do see continued activity here in the southeast corner. We also see a little bit more of this activity in the central states, dipping further southward into areas like Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois, Wisconsin. States like that seeing a little bit more activity. Monday here on the 11th, we see continued activity for the same areas. I always say the rich get richer in these types of situations because the areas seeing rainfall just continue to see it. It makes no sense. Well, it really does make sense, but you know how it is. When we look at the plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, we do see a lot of thunderstorms here as well, as we're in an overall pretty stagnant pattern. Nothing's moving around too much. We're not seeing any sudden shifts with any of this through the first few days of the model run. We do see by Tuesday the 12th, this bit of a cold front is continuing to slowly advance eastward. So slowly that it's probably more of a stationary front. It's moving extremely slow. And in these types of situations, typically if it was a fast-moving cold front, you would expect this to just be sweeping in a linear fashion through these areas. But since it's getting so much almost head-to-head action here, with the northern cold winds hitting those warm, humid winds directly. And what we're seeing actually in that line isn't a linear motion. It's actually going to be moving along the line from south to north likely in this direction where we're painting that arrow. So we'll be watching for that type of activity very closely. Typically that brings more precipitation because you're not just getting this quick little piece of that system. You're actually getting many different pieces of it that are moving along. We call it training because it's kind of like train cars moving on a train track. That's kind of how you could picture that. And with this warm, humid push, we're just getting these warm, humid, isolated, and scattered thunderstorms around. Still by this point on the 12th, we do see this warmth building, this kind of ridge out west, and we see more of a trough over the central states that has not arrived for the east by this point, but we do see a lot of cooler conditions, especially up here in the northern plains and upper Midwest. As we keep going towards Wednesday, we do see that this cold front does advance slowly but surely. We end up with more of a ridge in the west and more of a trough overall in the east, but it isn't an intense one. It isn't like that one we saw in the beginning of August. In my opinion, this is not quite as intense as that one was, bringing highly unseasonable weather. This is going to be more like something you've probably experienced before, just like slightly cooler than normal conditions for August. Probably just very pleasant days ahead for this pattern around the 10th through 15th time frame. Thursday on the 14th, we see a lot of our storminess is continuing to be located in the east there. It's really just a trend. We see it more widespread overall as we see the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, the Deep South. All of these areas just continuing to see thunderstorm activity. We do have a stronger low, which I don't know if you can see on screen, so I'm going to draw it actually below where it is, but it's just to the north of where I just drew this, and we can see a little bit of a cold front type line happening underneath that could bring some thunderstorm chances up there in the northern plains and kind of the northern Rockies, which is actually pretty common this time of year for those areas to see more thunderstorm chances. I want to keep moving on though towards the 15th here on that'll be Friday. And what we see is, again, a lot of the Northeast, a lot of the Mid-Atlantic seeing these thunderstorms take place overall. We do see here in the Deep South another pocket of really intense thunderstorms as well happening. So definitely we're going to be on the lookout for that by this point. As you can see, we're going to just keep this going towards the 16th here on Saturday. And we see little isolated and scattered bits of thunderstorms all over the place for a lot of the Rockies, the central states into the east. Many different areas dealing with this by this point. As we take a look at Sunday here on the 17th, it's dying down a little bit. We do see still some pockets left over of this activity. I mean, this is more of your, typical summertime stuff. We see also monsoon activity there in the areas like Arizona, New Mexico, Western Texas. So that's maybe getting going again. Definitely something to watch for. Also the Great Lakes and Upper Midwest. The elephant in the room is this huge system down here on the bottom right of your screen. You might not even see it yet on screen, but that is that tropical system that's coming in the form of a major tropical cyclone here on this particular model run. Keep in mind that this is coming into frame right around the 10-day mark, which is considered right around the long range for these types of models. So definitely we're seeing this one hit the East Coast. We're seeing the GFS model way out to sea. They both might be wrong, and we might not even see any development really. So definitely there's a lot of time for this to change, but we're going to continue to monitor it because you have that side of it, but there's also the side where sometimes these models do have the right idea, even in the long range. So we need to treat it like a possibility for that reason. Now, as we keep going towards Tuesday, this is where things are really getting bad, as this storm is just really, really building up some intensity nearby the Bahamas. As we keep going towards Wednesday the 20th, it's approaching that southeast area, an absolute monster storm. I believe that's a 946 millibar low pressure center there off of the southeast, which would very likely be a major hurricane. And then this actually strikes near the Outer Banks. Unfortunately, is a 951 millibar low pressure system. Obviously, again, things can certainly change. This would very, very likely be one of the strongest hurricanes to directly hit this area of the middle of the East Coast ever. So whenever you see something like that, that's relatively unheard of, it's definitely time to pump the brakes and be like, okay, so this model is showing something very, very wild. Again, we're going to pay attention. The specifics aren't too critical, especially at this range. So typically what I would say is, don't pay so much attention to the exact intensity or the exact location. We just want to take into account that both of these models do show a hurricane, a very intense system moving towards the general direction of the United States. And that is reason enough to be really watching this one closely. So it's not it's not something that we want to be scared about. It's more of something that we want to pay attention to, especially when we have this much time to still go. This is beyond 300 hours at this point, so very, very far out. By Friday, we see this moving along the mid-Atlantic, now impacting areas like Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and it even slams there into southern New England. Still a 963. That is still a very intense tropical cyclone. I mean, this is crazy, crazy stuff here we are seeing on the models. Now, as we keep going, we're going to take a look at the total precipitation. And of course, because we have this massive tropical system, we have massive precipitation from the Carolinas northward. We also have a well above average amount here for the Midwest. Obviously, the East Coast kind of distracts from that, but the more likely one of the two is definitely the Midwest there. So that is the more important one to pay attention to here. 2 to 5 inches in the reds is generally what we're expecting there in the upper Midwest, which is well above average. The East Coast, probably without this tropical system, would see something in the reds. But with the tropical system, we're seeing the browns, which is 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. And even some of those kind of like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a grayish, purplish blue in there. And that's where it's 10 to 15 inches of precipitation. No surprise that a massive tropical cyclone like that would drop inches and inches and inches of precipitation. So again, no huge surprises. Looking at the anomalies, again, we can see well above average amounts here for the Midwest areas. The eastern seaboard is seeing amounts that are 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times their average here with that tropical system. But really without it, we'd have to take into consideration that probably most everywhere outside of the Midwest regions here, as well as Canada, a lot of Canada is above average, but a majority of the United States here would be below average without that hurricane hitting. And again, the likelihood of that hurricane hitting in that way at that intensity is extremely low still. So maybe a very dry period outside of the Midwest upcoming for the United States. Wouldn't really surprise me one bit. Now, as we just take a look at the temperatures, we're still dealing with these cooler than normal conditions there in the east, but we do see a cooler pocket set up over the northwest, and this is likely to bring these warmer conditions eastward. So over time, we do see that happen. But as it warms, we do see actually that kind of like second cold front come through that brings some cooler conditions to a lot of the central states and deeper south. We do see a warmer pocket here over the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, and northeast. But the big kicker here is this warm pocket over the west. This is certainly playing a pretty large role here because that's a positive PNA that forces the cool air eastward, and we're already seeing this pattern take place. We're predicting this for the fall and winter. So the fact that it's already happening in the late summer definitely says something, and it tells us that we're in a very favorable pattern for this to be taking place. As we keep going, we see another warm push, especially around the midway point of the month here. But as we keep going, we really see mostly warmer conditions in the east, as well as warm in the or cold in the west. Until the very end of the model run here, we start to see another warm push up the west, and immediately this forces some cooler air into the east. No huge signals for cold in the east, at least sustained yet, but there is definitely this up and down action. I feel like this has a lot of room to move in any direction, and we're going to keep you guys up to date with this over the coming days as we do upload every single day. So be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.